Occhi magazine. I'm Darryl Yokley. I'll be hosting this video for you. I'm here with Afa Dworkin. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I just want to make sure because I know, as my cousin will tell you, I've had my last name butchered, so I want to be respectful and make sure I get the name right.
No, you got it.
And then, speaking of family, there's my cousin Edith Yokley joining us as well.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. And yourself, cousin?
I'm hanging in there. I'm trying to keep it together.
I understand.
Yeah. I wanted to get you all here to talk about the Sphinx organization. This year is the 25th anniversary, correct?
That's true. Yes.
Oh, that's amazing. Just I guess a quick introduction. The Sphinx organization is one of the first Black and Latinx organizations for classical musicians in the country, if I remember correctly. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it's sort of a one of a kind social justice organization. The mission is transforming lives through the power of diversity in the arts. And yes, we do programming throughout the country as well as globally, reaching 100,000 people every year and 2 million in audiences, both live and broadcast. And yeah, the mission is really kind of broader than that, but our programming very much empowers historically excluded voices, Black and Latinx voices from classical music. And we really work through a sense of a pipeline from the very beginning when a young person is introduced to a classical music instrument all the way into their secondary education and then college career and onward to performance careers, teaching careers, as well as performance opportunities, touring, and then now most recently also arts leadership and entrepreneurship as well. It's sort of a 360 approach, holistic approach toward advancing diversity and inclusion in classical music.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I do jazz mainly now, but I did study classical saxophone, and so I had the double whammy of being like a minority in the classical world. And my instrument's kind of not in the classical world so much, so I was like, so when I see causes like that, it's like it gets me excited for the future of classical music, particularly. I wanted to have you all on because you were there from the very start of it. I was wondering, between the two of you, can maybe kind of recap maybe the beginning of Sphinx and what your experiences were and how it's grown over the years and whatnot?
Yeah, I'll kind of get it kicked off. It'd be great to have Edith speak from her experience too. But something we share in common in that it was a classmate of ours, a mutual classmate of ours, who came up with the idea of launching Sphinx while still a student, an undergraduate student actually, at the University of Michigan School of Music at the time. As an African American violinist, really, as a biracial violinist, really, but someone who manifested Black to the world, he often found himself to be the only person of color in any musical setting, which I'm sure you could probably relate to. And unlike so many folks who may comment on that or experience it, he actually chose to do something about it. So his dream originally was to reach out to and engage young people, Black and Latinx classical musicians, much like himself, to really create that network and create a sense of a family so that these young people would foster a sense of belonging and a connection, the understanding that they're not the only ones. And in fact, there's a whole network of really talented, poised musicians ready to be on stage, to perform, and to be granted these opportunities. So everything started initially with the Sphinx competition for young Black and Latinx string players, almost a festival really in Ann Arbor, Michigan at the time. And during that inaugural year, he assembled this first cadre and first class of Sphinx competition alumni. There were 12 of them, everyone under the age of 18. And the level was so high and so impressive and so incredibly compelling that from that point forward, it was really clear to him that while this was a really formidable beginning, a lot more work had to be done to really build this and to make these opportunities available to dozens and hundreds more of these classical musicians that clearly existed. And it was just a matter of connecting them to one another and to resources in the field so that the whole field can really be enriched by their voices, and so that these opportunities can be afforded across the board, not only based on kind of privilege and history. So I got involved as a classmate and a studio mate of his, the founder, Dworkin, who's now also my life partner. I certainly was really touched and impressed by the mission and the idea. But to be frank, I never imagined it to become as big as it had. And I never imagined that it would become my life's work either in this role. But all one had to do is to listen to these young people during that inaugural year, and maybe on a more touching and a personal level, to watch them interact with one another, to see the beginnings of what was a family being formed right in front of your eyes. I consider that probably the most special experience, and really a big privilege to have witnessed it in the beginning. So I got involved as an intern, and I never left. 26 years later, here we are. But I think what's really special is that 2 years after that, the first Sphinx Symphony was born in the year 2000, and that was an all African American Latinx professional orchestra, of which Edith was a member, who came in and not only performed as part of this festival, the Sphinx competition, but also were there to mentor these young people and to set an example and to introduce our audiences to major works by Black and Latinx composers, most of whom had no idea such literature existed. So I think that was a beginning of kind of these conglomerate of programs that really helped Sphinx shape itself into something that it is today, where the mature professional musicians could set an example to our young artists, to build that sense of mentorship and fellowship that's so important, for these young artists to really look on stage and imagine themselves there one day as well as professionals. I'll pause here and yield to Edith.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, that was a very consummate answer. I actually saw it or entered into the Sphinx realm kind of a different way. We were, as Afa said, all classmates. I was in my first year of grad work at the University of Michigan, and I was in a quartet with Dworkin and Afa. And then we had a cellist. Oh no, Afa, were you in the quartet?
Not that quartet that you're thinking of, though I did not to the rehearsals.
Okay, that's right. That's right. When I auditioned, I was told, "Oh, well, you know what? We're trying to form a quartet of." I thought it was grad students, but it was of the Black string students that were at the University of Michigan. And at that time, we did not have a Black cellist, but it was great anyway. And I remember from that, I met Aaron, met Afa, and Aaron had this amazing vision of Sphinx, and I think he actually named it from the beginning. And it was the idea of us not being the only, bringing a group of professional, high-functioning professional musicians of color together as an ensemble, and an ensemble to support these young people who were afforded this opportunity to come and compete with others that were at such a high level as themselves. So that was the impetus, and I thought it was just amazing. And I remember our first year there was a consortium between the University of Michigan and I can't remember what the other organization was, and we put together an orchestra and we accompanied the young people. And then the following year, the Ann Arbor Symphony, and I believe Afa, you were a member of the Ann Arbor Symphony during that year.
The first 2 years were with Ann Arbor Symphony, so that was my kind of hands-on introduction. And then in the year 2000, there was the symposium in the University of Michigan, which is when you played, and that
okay,
that kind of set a new standard for us to be able to assemble a professional orchestra of all Black and brown musicians. That's something that I think none of us dreamt of, but then it was possible.
And it happened, right. And then the Sphinx Symphony was born. And I'll never forget my first time on the stage of Hill Auditorium on the campus of the University of Michigan. Patrice Rushen was the special guest, which was absolutely phenomenal for an inaugural year to have such an esteemed musician be our special guest. But we were playing, I can't remember if it was Mozart or Brahms, one of the standards. And the conductor did not have to explain how he wanted the phrasing.
Mhm.
We just all felt it. And I remember that moment, and I remember I cried. I was on stage crying and playing. And I remember speaking to a lot of the other musicians in the orchestra that year, and we had just found a nirvana of sorts. And it was just such a very impactful experience. So that was my introduction to Sphinx. And I just feel really blessed to have been a part of it from the beginning and to still be a part of it now, 25, 26 years later. So
That's
love it.
amazing.
And I've made so many friends too. That's the thing, from all around the country. People who are playing with professional orchestras. I'm a member of the Chicago Sinfonietta, and people with the Dallas Symphony, Seattle Symphony, Atlanta Symphony, Detroit Symphony. Just, cream of the crop. It's just been a wonderful ride.
Yeah, because I was looking at the website yesterday. I was like amazed at all the stuff that you all accomplished. Like I saw it was like $4.5 million in scholarships or grant money. Is that correct?
Right. These are artist scholarships, actually. So yeah, one of the kind of most important things that Sphinx does is to support its 850 musician alumni. And these are alumni of not just the inaugural competition, these are alumni of all programs across the board, which includes musicians like Edith herself and members of the Sphinx Symphony, members of our vocal ensemble. We have a professional vocal ensemble, Exigence. There's also a touring self-conducted chamber orchestra, and now generations of graduates from our preparatory programs as well, including the Sphinx Performance Academy that's been around since 2004. So all in all, nearly 850 alumni, and annually we award grants and scholarships, access to instruments, performance opportunities, etc., all with the eye that someday classical music should look like our communities do, right? So that's kind of the vision we all have.
That's amazing. Yeah, because I mean, we did, I would say just even with classical music itself, there's a need for that support, but especially in the minority community of classical music, it's even more pertinent to that's happening now. I wanted to maybe scale back. So in the beginning, how did you all find the partners and the stuff to build this the way it has? Because I mean, it does take the funding and everything. I was like, and like you said, it's grown so much. And I was like, man, how do you even go about that process?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think partnerships are everything, have always been really essential to Sphinx's existence and then growth and subsequent kind of vision and the work that we do today. So for us, partnerships were always fundamental and essential in that Sphinx, for example, doesn't have a building or a concert hall of its own, right? But we partner with more than 200 various institutions across the country, which includes music schools and conservatories. More than 100 orchestras are partnering with us and the partnerships really range from performance opportunities to scholarships, in-kind, access to instruments. And I think most important in terms of what you said as far as how does one go about establishing these partnerships is, I think the first thing is to figure out what the vision is. And big picture wise, the vision was always have our stages, have our corner offices, have our chamber music halls and audiences look like our communities, as vibrant and as diverse. In order to get there, we have to kind of enrich and fortify and empower the young talent, which meant we had to work with secondary schools and elementary schools to really start these young people on instruments, right? So that meant going to schools, seeing where there's most need, and then providing these lessons, both group and individual lessons, and free access to instruments. In order to do that, it was about forming partnerships, but it's also about forming partnerships with corporations and foundations who would pay for this programming, because the schools we would target couldn't afford their own programming, right? So it was about making the instructions quality but free of charge. It was all full tuition. So we reached out to dozens and hundreds of corporations and foundations asking for funding to make sure we could afford to do it for free. We asked the schools to provide space and access to their young people. And then from there, of course, these young people needed more than lessons, right? They needed also access to more advanced programs. So we formed partnerships where if these young people audition for us, then they could automatically advance as long as they kind of pass the artistic merit requirement. They can advance to other intermediate programs. And then it was about forming partnerships with colleges and universities so that they could host our summer programs, our own summer intensives, right? So it was about raising funds so we could pay all of our teaching artists. We've always believed in compensating our artists without exception, really. It's really important for the industry to have that sense of equity. But it also meant that some of these colleges and conservatories would have to offer us space to house our faculty and students. So that grew with the summer programs. And then as our artists advanced, they needed performance opportunities. So it meant partnering with orchestras to say, when you're programming a concert, consider the winners of our competition. They play at the highest level. You can come and hear for yourself, and then it's just a matter of providing that opportunity. So that continues to build. Even now, one of my dreams is to create an actual commercial quality, hopefully a Grammy-bound recording for our self-conducted orchestra. So it's about now finding the right partner through a label who would really buy into the mission and the programming of it all, so that eventually that can come to fruition. It continues. It grew from 2 original partners to now more than 200.
That's amazing. Wow. And it sounds like to me, from what I'm gathering, it sounds like it was kind of an organic thing. Like this came up and out of necessity. Now this needed to happen, and because this happened, and it just kind of took on a life of its own, and that's really amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a lot also about listening to the needs of our musicians, right? We started with the competition. The parents told us summers are important. My kid doesn't have somewhere to go where they feel that they belong, they feel included. So it was about building that summer pipeline, and then onward, we knew that instruments were a challenge in terms of access to a quality instrument. So we built partnerships with luthiers and makers across the country who were willing to work with us. I think it's a lot about listening and also, looking at the environment. During COVID, certainly all of us had to pivot and listen to the needs of our artists. At that time, the needs were such that our artists needed not only performance opportunities, which were digital because we couldn't be on stage, but also they needed funds to sustain themselves, right? Because we were all forced off stage, and for many people, that's rent. So finding ways to continue to encourage and support them meant that we had to find new partners in this digital world to continue to have their voices heard. And that I see Sphinx always staying agile, flexible, and entrepreneurial that way.
That's amazing. Yeah. So I was going to ask, so I see like you had the orchestra members, obviously, the string sections and whatnot. Yeah, and I think their careers are kind of blossoming as a result of the work with Sphinx. But you also try to showcase the works of Black and Latinx composers as well, which I think is really important because I have to tell a story. I just did a recital back in February, and obviously saxophone's kind of low on the totem pole repertoire wise, anyways. But it was at least for my own research, I only found one Black composer, that to this day, and that was William Grant Still, who wrote something for alto sax and piano. But I mean, it's I think it's pertinent that we have more showcasing of minority composers, and their works,
Yeah, absolutely. So in my mind, the commissioning of new works is an essential part of us pushing to expand and really right-size the classical music canon, or the canon overall. Every year we are committed to multiple commissions. We're right now amidst 5 new commissions, working with 5 separate composers, creating this new literature. I think it's just important. Classical music in America should sound like American classical music. It should be reflective of the wealth of cultural voices and unique voices that we have contributing to this fabric, right, of what is in our communities. Our communities should sound different. We have something really unique. And while I think there are these quote-unquote classics, I think classical music can only survive and thrive if it's relevant. It can't be relevant if it's not representative. So I very much believe in new music and giving voices and power to composers who are creating today. And there's not a lack of talent. There's not a lack of incredible rosters of Black and Latinx composers who are writing incredible stuff right now. We have currently a couple of chamber music projects, a choral work underway, a full symphonic work that's being commissioned for the 25th anniversary. And in all, we've commissioned and or supported or arranged about 40 works by Black and Latinx composers. I think a lot of it is about yes, commissioning, but also performing and then preserving and documenting and publishing this as well. So I believe very much in this aspect of what we do. And we've seen in the last couple of years, certainly the field has responded a bit more in giving the very much overdue attention to these composers of color, but I think it's not nearly enough. And I think we all need to make a commitment that this becomes part of what we perform regularly, season in and season out, for solo performances, for chamber performances, and definitely for symphonic works. Because I think that, you know, looking back 10 years from now, if we look back, we can be proud of what we've done with the field and what we've done with the canon, how much we've helped expand it.
Oh yes, no, that's. I mean, that's. Yeah, I'm like thinking like, I wish I had access to this stuff even when I was going in Michigan State. Sorry to mention the rival in this video, but
That's okay.
yeah, but yeah, because you know, it's funny. Some people assume that because you're showcasing these new composers that you're not going to be playing Bach or Brahms or Beethoven anymore. It's like no, it's just, you know, those pieces are great. But it's also, you want to reflect, art needs to reflect the times that you live in. And if you're not doing any new work, you know, I mean, there was a time where people knew like Stravinsky's name in their household. They knew who Aaron Coppola is. You ask someone even now, you know, who's a prominent composer, you know, it's crickets, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one shouldn't be fearful of what will happen to the classics, so to speak, but we do want the classics to be reflective of our times, as you said. And I think there's room for all of that. We're that much better, that much more excellent, that much richer if we do include these excluded voices. I think classical music can bring about great change. It could be, you know, the bard of our times, and it could help document what's going on in the world and in this country. But we can't do that if we're not empowering voices who are living today.
Most definitely. Edith, I wanted to ask you, I was looking again on the website and I was seeing testimonials. I wanted to get a testimonial from you on video, like how you feel your career has been affected by being a member of Sphinx, and what do you think might have happened had this not existed, you know, if you can maybe talk about that a little bit.
It's a good question. What I think is kind of funny is I'm a member of the Chicago Sinfonietta, and our late founder, Paul Freeman, championed diversity in classical music as well. And so to see a younger person like Aaron continuing that legacy and making it even more expansive by making it national and now international is something that's very rewarding. And although we are touted as the most diverse mid-sized orchestra in the country, it's still not exactly as diverse as it should be. Not like a Sphinx symphony. But I think because of Sphinx, I don't feel as alone. And it is always a happy experience. Every year I go to Detroit and Ann Arbor and meet up with my little crew of friends who are coming from all over the country and experiencing the exact same things in their professional settings as one of or the only in these classical realms. So I really laud Sphinx for that, you know, for giving us a support system. And then for us to then meet, hear, and mentor the young people that are coming up who are going to bolster these orchestras and all of these endeavors has been just, you know, a gift. So I think Sphinx has really helped in not only with the career, but the having a family, like Afa was saying in the beginning, creating that kind of family that you can always call, always count on if you need to talk late at night, because we're always up late at night. We're all doing the same things. But I love the idea of what these organizations are doing, and I love the fruition of what's happening now.
Oh, okay, gotcha, most definitely. See, real quick, I just wanted to see what are some maybe plans coming up for the 25th anniversary. Any new stuff that's gonna be that we can look out for? Or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, we've all been affected by COVID, but we're happy to say we're back on stage. So, for the 25th anniversary, it's going to be a big celebration on October 13th at Carnegie Hall,
Mm-hmm.
where we'll mark the anniversary. There'll be a big gala performance and presentation honoring our founder and 25 years of this work. So, we're definitely looking forward to that and hoping that people from far and wide will join us on October 13th. And then it will be January 26th through 28th. There will be a big convening in Detroit, Michigan, our headquarters, where we expect a couple thousand people to be there for the conference, the Sphinx competition, and then what is really special about it, the full Sphinx Symphony is going to give two landmark performances, one at the University of Musical Society on the stage of Hill Auditorium on the 29th of January, and then they will immediately travel to Kennedy Center along with our professional choir to perform on January 31st and do a program of all Black and Latinx composers, do a big performance there with the Sphinx Symphony as well as the Exigence Vocal Ensemble, and that also would be the final performance marking the 25th anniversary and celebrating this work.
Oh, amazing, amazing. So October 13th, I'll have to put it in my calendar. Hopefully I
That would
won't
be
be working
great.
that day. Yeah, hopefully I won't be gigging or be out of town. So if so, I'll be there for sure.
Right.
Awesome. Well, I don't want to keep you all too long, but I want to thank Afa and Ida again for joining me for this interview and doing a catch up. I know we have written interviews of them on the website as well still. And we'll put a link for the Sphinx website in there so you can check out all the great work they're doing. And hopefully we'll be able to do this again sometime soon.
Perfect. Thank you so much, both of you. Great to see you.
All right,
Yes,
take
thank
care.
you for having us. Take care.
Uh-huh.
Bye bye.
I'll see you in a little bit.
Okay.